Good day, everyone. You are welcome to our series of lectures, which is on STATA. In our previous lectures, we look at what is STATA and how STATA environment looks like. So that contains the first part of our video. How do we interact with the STATA? The features that are in STATA package. Then the other video that follows, we look at creation of a log file because we told us the importance of log file in a starter. So we look at the types of log file that you have in starter and how to create such a log file and uh, and how to append or when you have a log file that you already opened and you still want to retain it and even continue from where you stop, at least updating it, we also uh, shown us how to go about that. In this lecture, this very lecture, we are going to look at how do we get data into Stata environment? How do we get data into Stata environment? And I will quickly share the Stata window for us. So I will quickly share the Stata window for us. Let's just be continue from where we stop. Here we have already opened a log file. So we don't need to bother ourselves with opening of log file anymore. So the log file we opened in the last lecture. Now, I'm going to take us through basically 5 ways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways by which we can have data in our data editor and by extension, Stata environments. And the first one, which we are going to take us through, is the data from the internet, from the web. So, assuming as a researcher, you want to work with a particular data and you know that it is available online. So you can bring it into your Stata editor and start working with it. But first and foremost, you know that you must be connected with the internet, and it's preferable that your internet is stable so that you will not be having challenges. So when you have that already, then you can access that particular data, import it or bring it down to Stata from the internet. And the other requirement is that you must know the file name of that particular data you want to work with. So I'm going to use example of a stance2 data. So we call it web. The command is just web use. That is, I want to use data in the website or on the website. Then what is going to follow after web use is the file name. So I call it stance2. So that's the name of that particular data. That's the name that is used to store data. Then you press enter. So when you do that, so within fraction of a minute or seconds, you have the data in your data editor. So I'm going to click the data editor. So here is the data as we have seen. So it's having the following observations about 103 observations each for the 5 variables. Now, thank God, we now have variables on our data set. So if you look at your right-hand side of that panel, which I explained to us in our first video, so you see that that panel, that window has been populated now with the variables that we have in our data editor or in the starter. So you can see we're having 5 variables, their name, as well as the label. So there are difference between variable and label, variable name and variable label. So as time goes on, you see the difference. But if I want to quickly explain, so the labeling of variables will kind of give further explanation to a particular variable. If I just say ID, that's the variable name. What is ID? But you can see the label is saying that patient identity. So if I name a variable as died, what's the meaning of died? But the label will explain further. Like as this one is saying that this survival status of a particular patient, either died or alive. So that is the importance of labeling of variables. So that is, by the way, when we get to the data management, we'll talk more about that and how to go about labeling of variables. So, but what we have here is how do we get data into Stata environment? And the first one is using data on the internet. So as you have seen, so we have imported that data from the net and it's already on the data editor. Another way to see the data, we can use the command describe. When you just type describe, you are saying describe the data that I have in data editor for us, and you press enter. So it's going to display what you have on the screen as the description of the data we have. So without wasting more time, so this is the first approach by which we can get data into a Stata environment. The second approach that we are going to look at is there are some data that are installed with the package. The moment we are installing the package, so there are some data that came with it. So we can also access this data and use it either for practical purpose, for whatever reason we want to use it for. So it's another way of getting data into a Stata environment. So let me remove the data we already have so that we can illustrate that as well. So the command to remove variables from our data is Stata is drop. So that is, I want to drop. So we know the variables there. We have ID. I say drop ID. But instead of saying drop, typing them, I can use this command, drop space underscore all. So this will drop all the variables at once without specifying which and which and listing them. So it has removed all these variables. Let me go there to the data editor. As you can see, there is no single information or data in the data editor any longer. So I close it back. Now, I want to use the, what do you call it, the second approach. And as I said, the second approach is by using the data that came with the package itself, that was seeded with the package. So first of all, I must know the data. There's a way I can install the data to display all the data, all the data that are saved with it. And the command is using this system use. Instead of web use, you say system use. I'll now say in the directory. So dir. So when I press enter, it will display all the data that was saved with the package, the starter package, as you have seen it. So these are the about maybe 34 or thereabout of them. So on different research or different analysis that have been carried out before. So we want to use any one of them now. So the command is say system use. So I'll click on this system use, the last command that I instructed the command. So when I click, that's the importance of this review command window. Instead of typing it at first, I just click on that icon under system, that command under the review command window, and automatically it brought it to my command window, as you have seen. So I'll say system use. I'm editing it now. So the command to upload that data is system use, then space, followed by the name of the data you want to make use of. The name of the data you want to make use of. Let's assume that I want to use, which ones will we use? Let's go for the first data, which is auto new, or maybe auto, anyone. So I press enter. So it has automatically populated or imported the data into the Stata Data Editor. So I may want to see it by typing describe. So it's going to give me the description of the data. As you have seen, we are having 74 observations, 12 variables, and the size is taken on my starter memory is around that figure as you have seen. Then the other information we have there is that is data on 1978 automobile data, and the date was April 2011, and so on. And you have this number of variables that are there, 12 of them, their properties as well as and so forth. You may also click on Data Editor to view it further. As you can see, the make of the vehicle, the price, MPG, rep, and so on. So you have them, the foreign type. So these are the 74 automobile data with their different make that were uh, collected, the information on them. Also on the variable panel here, the right-hand side, you see the variables, their label, as well as their property, as you have seen. So that's the second way by which we can have data in our uh, data editor. We look at the third approach by which we can have data in our data editor. The third approach is by entering the data by ourselves. We have seen the data editor as it is, this matrix. Then we keep on entering the data. Since probably we conduct research ourselves, so we generated information, we generated data, so we have the data ourselves, so we put it on the table or wherever, then we keep on entering it one after the other until we are done with the entry. I'm going to illustrate that. Let me drop this variable that we have already, that we have that illustration. So I'll first open the data editor, then I'll keep on entering the observations. So I have them. Maybe we're having 15 observations altogether for this variable, and we are dealing with two variables. Just entering them. If you are entering and you make a mistake, go back to that particular entry. So superimpose the correct entry and you move on. So it's allowed. So assuming I have two variables having 15 observations each. So the other thing that we need to do, though we can take this one to other data management, but let's quickly look at it. So what is VR1? Because by default, the starter will continue to name variables with that auto naming VR1, VR2, VR3, VR4, even if you have 100 variables to be VR100. But VR1 is not a name that may make meaning to us. What is VR1? So we need to rename that variable appropriately. We need to rename them appropriately. So we name them by using the command REN, stand for rename. So we give space. The initial variable name, the default variable name, which is VR1, will be provided. Then space. Then the actual variable name that we want to assign to such variable, let's call it X. So I press enter. So it has automatically renamed that VR1 as X. So as you can see, and if you come to your variable panel here, you see that we are now having X in place of VR1. So we do the same thing for the second one. So I click on the last command, it brought it to the command window. So I'll just edit it as VR2 Y. So it has automatically named the second variable as well as Y. And if I come to my variable view window, you see that it has named the variable appropriately. Under this particular approach, instead of going through this method, I can also use command window to enter my data as well. So it's allowed or it's possible. So let me drop the variables and demonstrate it. So I'm dropping the two variables since they are just two. I will say drop x, y. So it has dropped those two variables as you can see. Let me quickly go there. You see that there's no more variables there, no observation there. And you come to your variable field panel window here, nothing is there as well. Now, the command is by using command approach, you say input. Now, the name of the variables you want to input their observations will now be provided. We are going to use the last illustration, which is just two variables, x and y. I will say x, give space, y. So with this, I'm telling Stata that I want to input observations of variables x and y. So I press enter. So it's going to prompt me that I should provide the first observation for each of the two variables. So I will say 34 space, then maybe 10. So that's 34 for variable x, then 10 for variable y. I'll press enter. So the second set of observation, let's say it's 25 and 12. I'll press enter. For the third observation, let's say it's 45 and let's say 20. Press enter. I will continue like that until I've gotten to the end of the observation that I'm about to enter. When I get to the end, I will end it by the command end. That I'll press enter. So with this, so you have entered the observation for all those variables. So if you come to your window field variable here, you see that the variables are already there. And if you want to see the observation themselves, you come to Data Editor. So you have seen these three observations each for variables x and y. You see that this one has saved us the problem or the task of going to the previous method in which I will need to rename the variables appropriately, because this one, from the beginning, I've assigned the name to my variables. So that is the second, or what we call the second way of inputting the data. The first one, you go to through Data Editor. The second one is use a command approach. So with this, we have taken us through three approaches by which we are getting data into Stata environment, by which we can get data into a Stata environment. The first one being by using data on the internet. So using the command web use. The second approach is by making use of the data that were shipped or that were installed with the package itself. And we say that that time we use system use, then the file name. Then the third one is we have the data ourselves. We are the one that collected that data, either primary source or secondary source. We have them in hard copy. Then we are the one that will enter them one after the other until you are done with the data entry. And that one has told us that you can use two ways by which you can go about that. First, you go through the data editor, open it, continue to enter all the informations. When you are done, you close that, then you name the variables appropriately. You give the variables their right name. Or the other one is you use command window to do the data entry. You use command window to do the data entry. So with this, we are going to stop here. In our subsequent video, we are going to look at the other two approaches by which we can get data into Stata environments. And what are those two remaining approaches? That one will be by simulation. By simulation, that is, we generate our data ourselves from a known distribution, from a known scenario. And the last one is by importing from another spreadsheet. That's the fifth one. Another spreadsheet like SPSS, like Excel, and what have you. So as I've said, we are going to stop here, and in the subsequent video, we'll be looking at that. Thank you, and God bless.